What is up, everybody? It is your host, Isaac Doherty of the Misfit-Mansion-Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to Music Monday. We're going to be hitting it all. We're going to be hitting rap, rock, metal, dubstep. Let's get it good on Music Monday, baby. Let's go. It is the first Music Monday here on the Misfit Mansion. And we're going to open it up with talking about Jinjer, baby. Jinjer, the female-fronted, even though that's barely relevant, the female-fronted power group coming out of the Ukraine, consisting of 4 members, and not all are original, but I do believe Eugene, Tatiana, and I think Eugene and Tatiana are the only original to this date, but we have their debut first album dropping in 2012, Inhale, Do Not Breathe. Unfortunately, myself, I have not had an opportunity to listen to it, and shame on me as a Jinjer fan for not doing so. Something I will definitely have to do. Followed by it would be their sophomore release of Cloud Factory. I have been fortunate enough to get a signed copy when I got to see them in Angola, and Cloud Factory most certainly sits in like one of my favorite albums, especially with the flavor and color that's throughout the entire record. From tracks, all these can be found on YouTube and Spotify and many other places, and will most likely be linked in the description on YouTube. We've got, the first 2 opening tracks had me completely by the boo-boo. Outlander and No Hoard of Value blew my mind. No Hoard of Value to this day is still one of my favorite songs, and I think they played it live when I saw them actually, which made my fucking day. But then, come to follow with Cloud Factory, have coming in 2 years later, released in 2016, King of Everything. This record is what solidified, put the ring on me loving Jinjer. The complexity and compositionship that Roman brings. My goodness. All members currently including Tatiana Shmail-Yuk on vocal, Eugene Kostok. These are all Ukrainian Russian names, so forgive me, guys, if I butcher them. I'm gonna do my best. Roman Ibrakilalov, and Vlad Ulasev. I'm so sorry, guys. Vlad on drums, Roman on guitar, Eugene on bass, and Tatiana for fronting vocals. And King of Everything. If there's an album I'd recommend for somebody to listen to get them into Jinjer, I would check out King of Everything. It really encompasses all of their creative potential, especially with it being their second to third release after they've had more time to develop themselves and understand themselves as a band. Fucking incredible record. Following the release of King of Everything 2016, and 3 years later in 2019, we have a very early in the year release of Micro, which came out, I believe, January or February, and I remember when it came out, and it had me by the balls. I actually am almost, personally, just my opinion, more of a fan of Micro than Macro, but I love what Macro is able to bring to the table with Jinjer. Both albums being released in 2019, Macro hit the YouTube forefront and storefront, I think, not December, but very close to the end of the year in 2019 before we all saw hell in 2020. And currently, their most current release, Alive in Melbourne, came out 2020. It's the live record, and they perform, I believe, almost songs off of the past 3 albums, if you consider Micro and Macro kind of like a sister release. Similar to what Periphery did with Alpha and Omega. But both times that I was able to see Jinjer, I have never been disappointed. They have a killer engineer that has them sounding on point. Vlad is such an animal behind that kit, dude. They are so tight and just lovely. Mwah! Love Jinjer. Love Jinjer. Love Jinjer coming from a Jinjer, talking about Jinjer, and I don't even cook with Jinjer. But we're gonna open it up with a bunch of factual stuff here and there, and then we're gonna close it out talking about Gojira, because those boys have been busy getting at work. This has been some metal, so we'll flip it up and go to a different gear. Kevin motherfucking Gates. Yes, sir. I am a big Gates fan. I have loved Kevin Gates. I'd say probably about 2017 with the release of Eliza, I believe, if that's what it's called, if I'm not mistaken. But Kevin Gates' first release came out, I believe, 2009, with a plethora of mixtures of singles, mixtapes, and albums released up to this current point. If I'm not mistaken, there's over 15 releases from Mr. Kevin Gates that we've had in the past 10 years and on. I cannot lie and deny and say that I am not a big sucker. I'm a sucker for By Any Means, which came out in 2014, and Plug Daughter. Well, the album with Plug Daughter, Gangsta Grillz 2. Gangsta Grillz 2 is like forever one of my favorite albums from Kevin Gates. It's got those classics on it. We talking Sit Down, we're talking In My Feelings, we're talking about Plug Daughter, talking about all that good thugging gangster shit that just makes me want to crank my subs and get weird looks from Mexicans at intersections. But like the question is like, do you say the N-word if you bought it in the privacy of your own home? If it's to a song. Other than that, you're fucking racist. You fucking racist, okay? I'm not going to start talking about that line. But within the past month, we had the release of Plug Daughter 2 from Kevin Gates. And that immediately caught my eye on YouTube, and I was like, oh shit. Okay. I clicked it, and it's definitely got more of the new age, new sound influence in it going on, with the kind of the new age, multiple layering, falsetto, high melodies, layered vocals. But the second that it opened up with, the unprofessionalism is disgusting. The second that it opened up with, I'm fucking with the Plug Daughter, I was like, oh, and then I heard Roadside Assistance, and I was like, oh, I'm cranking this shit. I can't help it. I gotta act like I'm still sagging my pants in 7th grade. Oh, it was so yummy. And then, literally within the past 2.5, 3 weeks, I believe, we had the release of Only the Generals 2 from Kevin Gates. I have not had the opportunity to take a deep dive and hop in and really pick it apart and listen to what we got from Mr. Gates this year, but I am most certainly looking forward to it. Something else, we're going to bounce it back to a rock group here from the early 90s that have kind of come around to rear their head back again today, making a lot of old fans very happy. We have the notorious System of a Down. Yes, the motherfuckers that brought you... Yes. Our most beloved System of a Down came out with the 2 tracks last year. I think, was it 2021 or... I'm shaking if it's 2020 or 2021 that they released them. But I was very excited to hear them put out new music, but also still hear how intertwined they are with their roots. I am a sucker for Mesmerize and, my God, the album with Toxicity on it. I'm ashamed. It's called Toxicity. Good job, Isaac. You got something to down. You talk about System of a Down. But, Serg, always fantastic. He's got an iconic voice that you can hear in any track nowadays and know exactly who it is. You could play, if you've heard of System and know anything about their music, you could hear one guitar riff or a certain drum loop of a song, a little iconic, melancholic, high-pitched melody that just seems so out of place but also fits just so right. They have sent their debut in lovely California in 1994. System of a Down has released 5 studio albums to date, and I still always enjoy hopping back and listening to their very first debut album with tracks such as Sweet Pea, Sugar, War, and etc. to really encompass that crazy, rowdy, rebellious 90s energy of fuck you all, here's our voice, this is what we have to say, and we're not changing. We're weird and we don't give a fuck, we're here. That sounded kind of related to another kind of, yeah, shut the fuck up. Get off my back. Get off my back, man. Get off my back, he said. But I'm excited, like seeing what we've got more to come from Kevin, what lies within Only for the Generals 2. I am very curious to see what System of a Down does in the next years following these early 20s, because it would be so badass to see them get back on a regimented tour schedule, and they may be, if I haven't checked, stop hitting them. Stop hitting the mic! Stop hitting the mic, man! Why you gotta hit the mic, Izzy? Why do I sound so racist right now? But I would love to see them get back to a much more active status in these early years of the 20s. Moving on to our next group, I'm going to talk about good old Incubus. Incubus. Fun fact, lo and behold, excuse me, little do people know that an incubus is actually it is the male counterpart to a succubus. It is the male equivalent or the male energy of a demon or a negative entity feeding off of negativity or your happiness or your life force or whatever you watched on TLC last night that gave you nightmares. But not very many people know that, and especially with someone who's very, very involved in the metal scene and the metal community. Well, I want to be more involved, and we will get there one day. But to hear a band called Incubus and then have their much different style and color to their music when your band name is a demon, it's always kind of eyebrow raising. But they took over and hit the California scene in good old 1991. Two more. That's another group that we got from California. And a lot of people are more familiar with their, not newer today, but like their more radio played hits of Pardon Me and whatever, you know, the more radio friendly ones. But I always get sucker punched, and a lot of people have their eyebrows raised when they go back to 1997 and listen to Science, which is one of the 8 albums that Incubus has released in their very successful musical career. And Science is just a completely different slot machine of the demonstration of the talents of these musicians. There's some gnarly slap bass throughout that album that I could only imagine that Les Claypool would kind of raise an eyebrow and be like, that boy got chops. And to kind of have that, and to be released in 97, to have that 90s influence, very similar to Slipknot with synthesizers and a DJ from Sid Wilson. You've got a very more different, upbeat, funk, rock kind of expression of Incubus's abilities that you don't really hear in their more radio played mid-2000s sound of that relaxed bay, have a chain smoke a pack of cigarettes and drive down the highway type sound. It's much more watching the stage going, what the fuck's going on? If you want to find out what I'm talking about, you could check out their album Science, released in 1997 on Spotify and all platforms, and I would check out Redefined, Idiot Box, New Skin, and Certain Shade of Green. That upbeat funk rock mixed with Incubus's iconic sound is just a different flavor of the rock and roll world that you may just take and cater to. You never know. You'll never know until you try. Crocodile is great, believe me. I always lie and say I don't do it, but I do it because it's great. What the fuck am I talking about? Music Monday, baby. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into the Misfit Mansion. I am your host, Isaac Doherty. If you have not gone back and listened to the episode we did with my friend Kurt, where we had a couple drinks, got a little loose, but had some pretty gnarly stories about some very questionable characters and some possible, I don't know. Let's just say that there's some Nazis involved and nudity and Ubers, and it's a really good story if you want to go check it out. Pressing forward, a name that we all know and probably have, if you have or haven't heard of in the kind of more recent encounters, good old Sonny Moore, also known by his much more iconic DJ stage name, Skrillex. I love Skrillex. I've listened to Skrillex for a very long time. I would say I probably hopped on board very close to when Equinox was released. And I was listening to Skrillex all throughout my, early adolescent, pre-high school, just getting into high school. So, 7th, 8th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Then when I got into high school, I started getting more to heavy metal and other genres. But I listened to Scary Monsters, Nice Sprites, front to back, religiously. And if you have not listened to Skrillex's music, you are in for a fucking surprise. If you like any form of EDM, house music, dubstep, club style of music, it's almost a psychedelic ride to listen to Skrillex's music, because you will have there is a lot of heavy metal influence and a lot of heavy metal relation to dubstep music. And not a lot of people realize that, very similarly to how metal and dubstep alike, due to some parts of the complexity of the intricacies of the composition, are more closely related to classical orchestral music than other genres, such as pop or rock, that will stick around the same 3 to 5 chord progression that you can hear in almost every pop song. And a perfect example of this would be the difference in between, say, Equinox or Scary Monsters, Nice Sprites, and the song Long Drive with Your Friends off of Scary Monsters, Nice Sprites. And these are songs that have been out for more than 10 years, and they have released copious amounts of more music, but they are one of those classics that I will not let go of, and I will be some fucking banty, bloody, gory wearing 55-year-old in fucking Jesus Christ. What year will it be when I'm that age? 2040? What the fuck? 2050? Going, oh yeah, it's one of the best albums of all time. It's just weird that an interesting thing to think about with the progression of, say, boomers and their 70s, 80s, 90s music is that from about 2005, 2010 on, all music is all, for the most part, very heavily intertwined with the digital age. So, a kind of a trippy concept to wrap your head around is that from basically not just today, but from now on in the rest of history, there has been a video means of recording history. Up to the mid-1900s, but now everybody has the ability to do it. Every part of Grandpa could streak down the hallways naked in his fraternity and break into fucking pizza places in college because there were no fucking cell phones to catch him doing it. Now everybody's got a fucking cell phone to catch him doing it. And like with Skrillex, I caught this interesting thing. My English is decaying as we speak. But if you know about Skrillex, then you probably know about Diplo. And I literally last week heard the first track from these guys. And Skrillex and Diplo teamed up in 2014 and released the first song from Jack U. Jack U, G-A-C-K-U, the literal letter U, is a project that Diplo and Skrillex started in 2014 that they will collaborate with copious amounts of different artists. And if you know anything about the EDM scene or anything about the EDM scene, is that that artist collaborations are any genre you have an artist collaboration is the shit, but those are two very known names in the dubstep world. So they'll collaborate with multiple singers and instrument players and just put out tracks that blow your fucking mind. I listened to the track Take You There, Skrillex and Diplo present Jack U, and it's just a crazy track. If you haven't checked it out, go do that. You're doing yourself a slight disservice if you haven't, if you enjoyed that kind of music. And I got to get myself back into more dubstep because I've seen how many tracks Skrillex has released since 2015, and I'm like, fuck, I'm behind. Shame on me. Shame on me. But this next group, if you know, you motherfucking know. If you don't, you're about to know. We have good old Ramstein, yeah? Ramstein. If you know, you already rolled your eyes and went, oh shit, Ramstein. Yes, sirree, Bob. Ramstein. Founded coming from, by way of Berlin, Germany, Ramstein. These motherfuckers. If you haven't heard of Ramstein, it's probably because they haven't played near where you live. Because they've been banned. Why have they been banned? Well, you see, this one time they sodomized this guy on stage, but I think he probably had a pretty good time. They're iconically known, the main singer. I may do a whole 15 minutes about Ramstein at some point. The singer is a known The singer of Ramstein is a pyrotechnic engineer. On top of that, a poet and a musician. And if I'm not mistaken, the 7-piece that is Ramstein. 7. I don't have time to do math right now, but they will combine. They are the kings of the industrial metal front, I would say. And if you know a lot about industrial metal, and this is on the YouTube channel, please drop some comments and some suggestions, and I may react to them on my other channel, or I will give them a full breakdown on this podcast. But these guys kind of bring it when you're talking about industrial. If you like weird, listen to Ramstein. If you like hard riffs, listen to Ramstein. You like iconic, dark, melodic piano parts that intertwine, or even orchestral pieces that intertwine with the eclectic avant-garde style of artwork that is Rammstein's creations, check them out. They are definitely not for the mainstream's eye, but if you have an appreciation for rock, metal, and art, you may enjoy them like myself. They have copious, if I'm not mistaken. I am a little dull off the top of my head of how many releases they have, but I will tell you, their most iconic song, Du Hast, released in 1997, because these guys have been around since 94. Same year as System of a Down. Think about how much you know about System of a Down and how much you know about Ramstein, and they've been around for just about as long as each other. And I'll tell you, my favorite album being Mutter, and if you've seen the artwork off of it, you'll understand what I mean when I say the eclectic, darker side of it. And Mutter with tracks such as Ich Will and Sonne, and they're all German, by the way. If you don't, it's just one of those where you appreciate the music. If you appreciate the music and appreciate it being in a different language, go listen to them, fuck with them, get down with it. But basically, you will be very entertained if you ever see them because they've kind of been banned from everywhere for being so badass. Fun fact about Ramstein, if your curiosity gets the better part of you, they have a completely X-rated music video released on streaming services as such called Pussy. You can imagine what it's about. One of the very few songs that's in English, but has a humongous comedic aspect to it, and it's one of their most popular songs, next to a handful of others such as Amerika, Du Hast, Mein Herz brennt, and many others. If you speak German, I hope that my accent ist gut, ja? If not, let me know in the comments and shit all over me. But since we've had an educational and spiritual connection with all of these bands, it's time to talk about our closer for the evening on this evening day, whatever point in time you were listening to the first Music Monday. If I'm being totally honest, I'm working on getting more guests on, because I can only imagine that listening to my stupid voice may get old at some time, and if it doesn't, you want to be friends? I collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I'm kidding, I don't. Used to as a kid. That was the shit, back when Yu-Gi-Oh was the shit. But thank you for hanging around. You were the fucking shit. And the last one we're going to talk about today is Gojira. Gojira. Oh boy, oh boy. We're going to get a little bit deeper. Very similar to Jinjer with Gojira right now. Gojira, founded of the four members, Joe and Mario Duplantier, which are brothers. Mario being the drummer, an animal, a beast on the kit. He's one of those drummers that you could hear him do a drum solo and know that is him doing the drum solo because of his style and his color and the strokes that he uses on the canvas that is his drum kit. Joe Duplantier, the vocalist, brother of the drummer, vocalist and guitarist, does both, has one of the most unique voices in metal that I have ever heard. I genuinely, to this day, by way of France, everybody, they are French, if you have not heard from my shitty accent and personification of what is Gojira. He has one of the most iconic screaming voices. I've been listening to them since mid-high school, so for getting close to 10 years, and earlier high school, but I have not found a single vocalist that sounds anywhere close to his voice. And he has a perfect in-between of full-on growl screaming and this singing that layers to where he can move around with pitches and hit certain, like, compressions of his vocal and scream and level of strains that you just feel the pain, and you're just like, not the literal pain, but the emotional pain being expressed at the pieces. And to move on forward, we have the Jean-Michel Labadie and Christian Andrew. Christian Andrew being the other guitarist in Gojira, and Jean-Michel Labadie on bass. And when these four gentlemen come together, they create an iconic sound that could pull tears and also make you just want to knock your friend's teeth out. Their debut album, Victim, hitting the billboards. Oh, I don't know if it hit billboards or not, but came out in 1996. So these guys have got cred to their name, and they've been around for a minute. Followed by two more released albums in the 90s, Saturate and Possessed, before having a little bit of a hiatus from releasing music and released The Link in 2003. And I have listened to The Link throughout, and it's definitely a shifting point, and their sound from the more... It's when they kind of started breaking from the masses. And then following the release of The Link 2 years later, we have one of... Almost all these albums at this point are my favorite, but we have the release of From Mars to Sirius coming out in 2005. And From Mars to Sirius is front to back... It's a creative masterpiece in the sense that they create an entire atmosphere, and you get to float around and move about it as they guide you with they have a very deep message. Following From Mars to Sirius, we have The Way of All Flesh coming out in 2008. The Art of Dying on that track. Oh my God. Incredible. I have noticed that coming from listening From Mars to Sirius, and then when you hit The Way of All Flesh in 2008, The Way of All Flesh has... I would definitely say if you were a Gojira fan from about 2012 and 2015 on, go back and listen to The Way of All Flesh, because there's a certain darkness that comes back up with that album that some songs just got me wincing and like, oh my God, that's just gnarly. Crazy shit. Moving forward, and more kind of known in the modern day, the release of L'Enfant Sauvage 2012, which is indeed French, and I forget, I'm going to have to find out the translation. I knew it once upon a time back when I was obsessed with them, but do not anymore. L'Enfant Sauvage, released in 2012, is going to be the track that brings you multiple iconic songs known by Gojira, such as L'Enfant Sauvage, The Axe, Born in Winter, and more. And as we get closer to the modern day, as they say, their last released album before these new tracks that we have heard lately, Magma. Magma, released in 2016, was a Grammy-nominated album from our friends in Gojira, and most definitely from front to back, continuously, they just continue to evolve, and not one album feels the same, but you can tell how they've grown in this album. And I'm not even gonna lie, when this album first came out, I slept on it a little bit. I did. I heard a shooting star in the next couple of songs, and I was like, where's the ferocity that you hear in some of Les Fonts Sauvages? And then I stopped being a little puss bitch, came back around and listened to it, and was like, oh, damn. Love it. Pray gets me every fucking time. I would almost call them one of the kings of the 16 bars, in the sense that they will get a vibe, they will find it, they will grab it, and then they will immerse you in it until they're ready to, they'll tease you, they'll get you comfortable, and then they'll just hit you with the energy. And having to finally be able to see them live 2 years ago, I was anything but disappointed. But wait a minute, I totally fucked that up. Wait. I was mind blown. Okay, just fuck what I just fucking said. I was mind blown. Honestly, like, very much so, very, very much so like Jinjer. They are just tight. They are tight to a T. Their engineer is on point. They are very, very, very well rehearsed. Joe being able to play what he plays on guitar and do vocals at the same time is just so impressive. The technicality of what Mario plays, and if you know anything about any music theory, when you really zone in and listen to some of the metric modulation that goes on and some of the meter switches, it's just truly, these guys are fucking gangsters in the metal scene. Most certainly gangsters. And as we press forward into the past 6 months, we had the 2020 release of Another World and a badass animated music video, which I truly enjoyed. The second Another World came out, it became my workout jam, because I'd heard, you hear the intro, and then it drops into that riff, and Mario starts nailing that bell. They get up in your face, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's time to push some motherfucking weight up in this bitch. Man. And that's when I was like, ooh, 2020, it's been 4 years, what have they done? I'm so excited, dude. And 2 weeks ago, to this date, that I believe this is probably not going to be coming out it's coming out on Monday, baby, but Born for One Thing, another single release, which is going to keep us thinking, we're all thinking, oh my God, they're gonna release an album, guys. And it's so fantastic to see a band that has quite literally been around for going on 30 years put out another song that still grabs you and you're just like, yep, it's time to mosh. The second that Born for One Thing opens and they hit you with that riff and that fucking opening scream, you know it's on. And to keep that power and originality and style over 20 plus years in a career is fucking phenomenal. Not to mention that they did team up very recently with Neural DSP to release the Archetype Gojira, which is an amp sim that you can buy from Neural DSP that features a hot, a crunch, and a clean, and I've watched demos, and to be totally honest, I'm going to be owning it very soon because it just looks so badass. So if you dig and do some of your research, nothing is officially announced yet, but we may have a April 30th release, possibly of a new full-length album from Gojira 2021, and I am fucking ecstatic. So that has been our little deep dive into Music Monday. Bear with me, there was some heavy metal, a little bit more than I'd like, but it's all music, man. Coronavirus! I have been your host, Isaac Doherty, on Misfit Mansion. This has been Music Monday. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, you're the fucking shit. We've got more goodies to come on Misfit Mansion. I hope you have a good day, morning, or evening whenever you hear this. I have been your host, Isaac. Take it easy, because we got more coming. Later.